So my name is Caitlynn Forbes. I'm 20 years old and I go to NMU. I grew up in a Catholic family. We'd go to church every single Sunday and we'd practice all like the holidays on the calendar that the Catholic Church had, your Lent and such. But it always felt very religious. It felt like very ritual. There was like a set order to how we did things. I had my mom who outside of that was also Catholic, but she always encouraged us to talk to the Lord before we slept and when we woke up in the morning. So she encouraged that engagement in relationship with Jesus. When I was 13, we lost contact with my mom. And as a child, this was very devastating for me. My mom was the most affectionate person, She was very loving. She was always very soft with us. And when I lost her, I felt like I had lost that connection to the Lord, that personal relationship that I had. There was no longer anyone encouraging me to pray and to pour my heart out to Jesus. There was just my family who was encouraging me to go to church and live in the set routine. You go to church every Sunday and then you go on a Wednesday. And I began to lose that personal relationship with the Lord. And in particular, when my mom when we lost contact with my mom, it made me lose all hope because I thought, what have I done to deserve losing my mom? So I was exposed to a lot of things from a young age that I shouldn't have been. And this led to me being in situations where I would be taken advantage of. And, these circumstances made me feel very, very, very lost, very broken, very hopeless. So in 2021, my father passed away from cancer. And he was the breadwinner for our family. He financially sustained all of us. And once he died, that support system kind of collapsed and it resulted in my family being scattered all over. I went to stay alone when I was 17, end of grade 11. I started staying all by myself. And I never really had much financial support. And I was also under pressure academically to sort of maintain my marks so that I could stay at school because no one was paying for my school fees anymore. Because I lived alone and because financially I wasn't doing well, there wasn't really space or resources for me to get out of the house or even go to a church community. I remember when I lived alone in my first house, I lived down the road from a Catholic church. And this for me was like, of course, if I live near a church, it's going to be near a Catholic church. And on a few occasions I did try to go, but I encountered more of the same that I had felt so upset with as a child. That routine, that that religious line of worship, it didn't feel real to me. It felt like I was being pretentious. And so eventually I gave up altogether. What I struggled with the most living alone was that loneliness, feeling like I didn't have anyone there who could see me, who could be with me for what I was going through. I felt unloved, I felt abandoned. And at this point I didn't even associate it with the Father anymore because I no longer believed. I simply believed there is no Father because I am alone. So things started to change for me when I came to the church that I'm at now. And while they introduced me to something called a life group. And this was something that was so crazy to me. I didn't even realize that you could meet up outside of church in like a community setting. I was used to the prayer meetings and the dedicated rosary sessions, but this felt very different. Finally now I was getting to actually connect personally with these people who claim to be of faith. And I got to understand why they followed the Lord and what their perspectives were. It like sparked curiosity in me to learn more and more about what other people were experiencing and why I wasn't experiencing it. Coming to the church and being in that first service, I remember the pastor saying this phrase. He said, "You don't have to believe to belong to this community." And this surprised me. This really struck me because what do you mean you do not have to believe in God to be a part of a church community, And it made me wonder, why has he said that? And it made me realize that, it was a demonstration of what real living love and faith looked like because God wants us, even when we don't feel like we're worthy of it, whether we believe or not, whether we love him or not, he loves us. And that just perfectly demonstrated that concept to me. And this made me more curious. I was like, why have these people, how are they able to say these things? What encourages them to do this? And so going to life group and coming to church, I got to sort of learn this whole new perspective on what it meant to walk in faith and be a Christian. although I didn't necessarily believe, or my heart hadn't necessarily been shifted in any significant way, I now began to come to church with like curiosity, like what are they going to say this time? What am I going to hear next time? And I began to actually connect with the people at church, and I actually really liked them. They became more than just these church people to me. They became real people with their own stories, and it encouraged me to think deeper about what I was experiencing. The first big shift that my heart went through was in life group last year. We had watched this video on grace. And I never really understood the concept of grace before. I would always hear the word, but I never really understood it. For the first time, I understood how enormously privileged we are to be receiving this thing. You know, if grace is real, then wow, we are so fortunate to be receiving it. But then, as the year continued and I, had my struggles, whatever it was, I got to a point mid last year where things were very, very difficult. I began to look to faith out of desperation, as a call for help. But it never really stuck for long. I kind of went on with my year. And then the beginning of this year again, very difficult time. This was when I began to struggle with the concept of forgiveness. Very, very difficult. I was struggling to forgive, and I felt this bitterness and resentment in my heart all the time. But things started to slowly shift. I realized it's not me. I'm not the one it's not of my own strength that I'm able to forgive others. It's not my own strength that I'm able to be gentle or be kind or be patient. And it was that like slow realization of it's been God all along, hasn't it? I mean, who else could it be? I realized that I wanted to be baptized when I did this small Bible study session with a friend of mine and this elder lady. We were just sharing our experiences with the Lord, that we had with the Lord, and how far we've come and such. And I just realized then that I want to like publicly declare my faith in Jesus. I want to take that step of intentionality with Him. I no longer wanted to just go to church and be there on a Sunday for an hour and come out again. I wanted to really be involved and express that faith out onto others as well. I wanted to be able to declare that publicly. I wanted people to know that this is the step I've taken now, to be closer to Jesus and to have Him at the center of my life, to shape and mold my decisions as I walk. I want to encourage anyone out there who's struggling with faith or struggling to believe to just grab onto the people around you and to acknowledge and even recognize that the love you experience with others, it's all from God and it's all from Jesus, God has love for you, and when you are struggling to experience it alone or to even believe in it by yourself, to surround yourself with people who will have God for you, because He's there and He's never left.